If I was to ask you a question, is the world a violent place? What would you say? Would you say yes, most definitely? Or would you say, I'm not sure? Or would you say, no, although there are violent people and violent episodes, by and large, the world is not a violent place? If you answered yes or unsure, I'm hoping that I can help you frame that point of view. And if you answered no, I'm hoping that I can help you reconsider that point of view. Dr. Marshall Rosenberg, who was a world-renowned expert on violence and conflict, and also the founder of a model called nonviolent communication, was known to have said that if violence is defined as the ability to harm, then most definitely the way we communicate is violent. So if violence is defined as the ability to harm, which it is, then the way we dialogue, the way we communicate, the words we use are violent. So what I want to do with you today is I want to talk to you about the essence and cause of that violence, as well as the solution out of that violence. And in order to do that, I want to take you on a journey to the savannas of Africa, where we find roaming one of the most majestic creatures known to humans. This creature is loved by millions. Yes, I'm talking about the giraffe. Did you know that the giraffe has the largest heart of all mammals? In fact, it can grow up to 24 inches or 60 centimeters in length. And of course, this is to get all that blood from its body up to the top of that long neck. But you know what we say about people with big hearts, right? They are compassionate, they're loving, and they're conflict-free. Giraffes have big hearts. This image of conflict-free is further reinforced by the fact that giraffes do not have top front teeth. They cannot use their mouths to bite or protect themselves. And they also have these tissuey bumps on the top of their head that we call horns. They are nothing more than bumps of tissue that are there to protect their skull. They're not used for aggression. So you may be saying, well, how is that conflict-free? That's being a pushover. That's being a wimp. That's just capitulating. That's just doing what everyone else wants you to do. Don't kid yourself. The giraffe boasts one of the most fierce predators in the world, the lion. One kick delivered from a giraffe to a threatening lion is enough to maim or kill the lion. Giraffes are compassionate, but they have very clear boundaries. And that brings me to the heart of my talk. The most amazing thing about a giraffe is their favorite food comes from the leaves of the acacia tree. Now there's a hitch. The acacia tree has as many thorns as it does leaves. And these thorns are 8 to 10 centimeters long, and they are razor sharp. And sometimes, however, this does not deter the giraffe, who will simply wrap its long black tongue around the branch and strip all the leaves from between the thorns. And sometimes a thorn will enter the giraffe's food. Sometimes the giraffe will have a thorn in its mouth. And yes, the giraffe knows how to eat and digest thorns. And that's what I want to talk to you about, is those thorns, those negative, shaming, judging, hating, guilting messages that we both send and receive every day. Those messages that guilt us, that hurt us, that shame others. Those messages, those thorns, if we can learn to eat and digest those thorns, we can become virtually conflict-free. Typically, when we think of big thorns, we think of the wars, the tragedies, the conflicts that require mediation, the killings. Those are not thorns. Those are the infected wounds and the festering wounds that a thorn has left behind. And so we need to focus on those little thorns, those messages, those shaming, judging, guilting, hating messages that we both send and receive. So what's the solution? What I want to do with you is I want to share 4 choices you have when you chomp down on a thorn. And then I want to dig, and 2 of those choices are conflict enabling. And 2 of those choices are conflict blocking. And then to round out my talk, I want to take one of those conflict blocking and dig a little deeper and look at how do we actually digest the thorn. And in order to share this with you. I want to share a little story, a little scenario, just to guide us through the 4 choices we have and then how to actually eat and digest the thorn. It's 2 a.m. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. You've come home from a long double shift at work. You're tired, you're looking for a little bit of food, so you're making a snack. You turn up the music, and you've barely sat down, and someone comes banging on your door. You hardly have turned around, and your neighbor comes crashing through the door and says, "You insensitive idiot, who do you think you are anyway? What, like, are you a loser? Why would you ever think you could listen to music at this time of the night?" Wow, that's a thorn. What are you going to do? You have 4 choices. The first thing you can do is you can spit it out. And this looks like this. "Oh yeah? You're the one who's the loser. Remember all those times that I've shoveled your sidewalk? You never say thanks. When do you ever appreciate anything I do for you, you moron?" You've just spit out that thorn and caused a lot of external pain and conflict for someone else. The second choice you have, take that thorn and swallow it raw. What does that look like? This is what it looks like in your thoughts. "Yeah, she's right. I'm such a loser. I'm such a moron. Like, why would I ever think that I could? I'm a jerk. Like, why would I ever do that? I don't know why I bother." That thorn went down and poked all the way and caused a lot of internal pain and conflict. Those are conflict-enabling choices. There's a third way, and that is to tune into your own feelings and needs at that particular moment. And I hear you. You're saying, "Oh, there's a counselor. He's talking about feelings." I promise I'll be concrete when I get to it in a moment. I'll be very concrete. There's no group hugs, no kumbayas, no fuzzy stuff. It'll be very concrete. And what does that look like? That looks like, wow, I'm anxious and scared because my need for safety and my need for rest and relaxation and possibly even my need for autonomy was not being met at that time. Fourth way, I can tune into the other person's feelings and needs. Typically, that's more difficult if we haven't first learned to tune into our own feelings and needs. There's a quote I'd like to share with you from Dr. Marshall Rosenberg again, who says that every expression of violence, anger, or conflict is nothing more than a tragic expression of an unmet need. So every time there's anger or violence or conflict, it's a tragic expression of an unmet need. So in that line, what are my neighbor's feelings and needs at that time? She was feeling irritated and agitated because her need for rest and relaxation and possibly her autonomy was also not being met. So what I would like to do with you now is dig a little deeper into the fourth way. So just quickly summarize and then dig a little deeper into how to actually digest that thorn. So first, you chomp down on a thorn that you're going to send or receive. You can spit it out and cause external pain and conflict to someone else. Second, you can swallow that thorn whole, causing a lot of pain and conflict internally. Number 3, you can tune into your own feelings and needs. Number 4, you can tune into the other person's feelings and needs. So what I'd like to do is give you a little bit of a formula. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a formula. This is a formula that I'm borrowing from nonviolent communication, and I understand. Formulas by their mere structure cause resistance, and I understand that. But just like those of you who have learned how to ride a bike, you had to learn a formula of balance and pedaling, and you had to learn that formula. And once you got it down pat, you now jump on a bike and you go, and there's no more formula. The same with this formula. Once you get it, and once you've ingrained it into who you are, you can pedal off into a conflict-free future. The formula is this. It's O-F-N-R. Each letter represents one word, but I like to make it a word. You need to do this more oftener. We all need to do this more oftener. So that's our new word. So let's dig into that. The very first letter stands for observe. It's a mindful practice of simply just observing. No judgment. Indian philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti was known to have said that the highest form of human intelligence is the ability to observe without any judgment. And that's both external and to self. So the highest form of human intelligence is the ability to observe without judgment. And that's what we do here. I noticed my neighbor came through my door and was speaking loudly at me and saying things that made me feel negative. That's all I did. I just observed. Pure observation. Let's go to F. Feelings. And I promised I'd be concrete. I want you to rethink feelings for a moment. Feelings are nothing more than our body communicating to us that whether our needs are being met or not. And it's this simple. Negative feelings, the whole range of them, tells us our needs are not being met. Positive feelings, the whole range of them, tell us that our feelings are being met. So negative feelings tell us our needs are not being met at that moment. It's our body communicating to us, and positive feelings tell us they are being met. Visualize this. You're laying on a beach, warm beach, you pick the beach. The sun is warming your body, and you're laying there, and you're happy and content. Do you feel it? Your needs are being met. Then you start thinking of this conflict that you left behind, and your stomach starts to clench, and you start feeling a bit anxious. And you start feeling this negative feeling. Your needs are not being met. Your body is telling you that. Then you forget about that conflict, and you go back to laying in the sunshine, and you're comfortable, and you're happy, and you're content. Your needs are being met again. It's that simple. So what were my neighbor's feelings at that time? She was feeling irritated and frustrated and agitated, as I mentioned already. Let's move to needs. My neighbor had needs. There was a tragic expression of a need going on. What was her need at that time? My neighbor's need for rest and relaxation and autonomy were not being met. Now notice the irony here. What was I doing when I turned the music on? I was expressing my need for rest and relaxation and autonomy. My neighbor was also expressing her need for rest and relaxation and autonomy. We had the same basic needs, and we were conflicting. In all of that need, in all of that expression there was also the final letter, and that's a request. So I noticed my neighbor came through my door, and she said some things to me in a loud voice. I noticed she was feeling agitated and irritated and frustrated because her need for rest and relaxation was not being met. What was her request? She had a 2-year-old infant daughter who's been sick for 3 nights, crying every half hour. She had just gotten her off to sleep, and in 2 hours she had to get up to go to her work at the hospital. And she was just wondering if she could have 2 more hours of sleep. That's all she was asking. But she expressed it so tragically. And if we could learn to eat thorns, eat and digest those thorns like a giraffe. And do you know how a giraffe eats and digests a thorn? 2 ways. First of all, a giraffe has saliva that is antiseptic. So when a giraffe chomps down on a thorn, it does hurt. And thorns do hurt. However, the saliva is antiseptic, and it will never allow it to infect or fester or continue to become a festering wound. Second way, that saliva is so thick that it creates a mucousy membrane around the thorn, which then allows that thorn to glide all the way down the esophagus into the stomach, where in the stomach, the enzymes begin to break down this thorn and take out the essential nutrients that are inside of that thorn that are necessary for the giraffe's survival. And that is what we need to do, is take those thorns and digest them and take out those needs that are inside of those thorns. So in this conflict-ridden world of ours, we need to stick our necks out. We need to take a message and learn from the giraffes. And we need to take our harmful messages, those judging, shaming messages, and we need to wrap them in enzymatic positivity and understanding so we can extract their internal goodness. And that is how to eat thorns. Thank you.